What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show, UFC 312. Shout out to Dracus du Plessis. I told you guys to go heavy on du Plessis. I knew he was the better fighter than Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland just has a big mouth. Let's be honest here. He likes to run his mouth. He's a good, talks a lot of shit. Yeah, he's good at that. But when it comes to the fight game, I just think Sean Strickland is just a little bit too predictable. And that's what happened. He got exposed. Du Plessis exposed him on that. And we look at the total strikes. Du Plessis 149 to Sean Strickland's 128 total strikes. It was just very dominant by Du Plessis. Controlled the whole fight. I think he won almost every round. And there was a round, I forget which one, it was like rounds 3 or 4, where Du Plessis threw a punch and broke Sean Strickland's nose. You know, hats off to Sean Strickland. He's a warrior. He corrected it mid-fight, which is pretty crazy. I love Sean Strickland, but when it comes to skill-wise, talent-wise, I knew Du Plessis was going to win. I knew he was going to walk right through him. I knew this was his fight to win and everything to lose, right? But Du Plessis wasn't going like that. You know, the first fight was actually closer than this fight. Du Plessis controlled it from the start to the finish. And he just looked more nice, man. Even though sometimes Du Plessis, when he throws punches, it's kind of like a brawl. It's kind of like you would see at like a bar fight where these guys are just throwing big haymakers, uppercuts, crazy shots, right? But Du Plessis mixed it up pretty nice against Sean Strickland. He just controlled him. It was like he knew what Sean Strickland was going to throw. Yes, Sean Strickland has a great jab, this and that, but I'm saying to actually win a championship title fight, you got to do more than just jab, Sean. You got to mix it up. I'm surprised Sean didn't try to take Du Plessis down. We saw the one takedown Du Plessis got. He only had less than a minute of control time there, so it was a quick get up for Sean Strickland, but it's just everything Du Plessis needed, man. And he's at 185 right now. He is the champion, and it looks like he's going to fight Chimaev, which is an interesting fight. We've seen Chimaev come out on these fights, come out fast. A great first round, and then, after a while, Chimaev kind of gasses out. That's a weakness in Chimaev. Like, against Du Plessis, if you're going to gas out on Du Plessis in a 5-round fight, it's trouble for Chimaev. So Chimaev's going to have to, somehow, he's got a good, camp. Like, he's going to have to get that cardio up. Because if you don't finish Du Plessis in the first round, you can bet Du Plessis is going to be ready to go. He's gonna have that cardio, and he's up and right. So, obviously, Chimaev, he's caught this storm. When he first got in the UFC, back in 2020, he was the biggest guy. And then he had to pull out of some fights. He missed weight against Nate Diaz. He was supposed to weigh in at 170, weighed in at 180. And just, he had that sickness, something to do with his immune system. I don't really know the whole dynamics of Chimaev, but Chimaev's in a spot right now where he cannot miss weight, and he should not miss this fight. He's next in line. They already said it's official, but I can't wait for that fight. Hopefully it comes in the summer or the fall time. But, right now, Du Plessis, man, he's legit. He really is, dude. Like, his record speaks for itself, 23-2 in the UFC, and he's going against Chimaev. Obviously, we know Chimaev's weaknesses. We know his cardio is not good later in the rounds. We saw that in the Gilbert Burns fight. Gilbert Burns in the second and third round really caught up to Chimaev a lot. We've seen Chimaev, against Kamaru Usman. Yes, he dominated Usman in the first round, 100%. Took Usman down, did what he wanted to do in the first round, but come second and third round, it was a different story. So we look at Chimaev and say, that's one leak in his game where he's got to change. Chimaev's got to get better in that department, and he knows that. And I could say Du Plessis isn't as good wrestler as Chimaev. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think Du Plessis is a great wrestler, but we're talking Chimaev here. Chimaev, I think, arguably is probably the best wrestler in the UFC. I really do believe that. I mean, we're talking about a guy who out-wrestled Kamaru Usman, who's a wrestler, dude. Like, really, that is crazy to think, right? But he's one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. I would say probably John Jones, is up there as well. But there's so many dynamic things about the MMA and UFC makes the sport so beautiful and violent, where it's like, all right, if you're not a good wrestler, you can't take them down. What are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? If you're just a straight wrestler and that's all you have, you gotta be great all around. And that's why Islam Makhachev is one of the best fighters. We look at Islam and say he's one of the best wrestlers, and his stand-up game is getting way better than when he first came in the UFC. Because when Islam first came in the UFC, we saw he got knocked out before, with a one punch. But ever since that loss, I think it was back 10 years ago, 2015, where, Islam, took off, never gave up. He's behind Khabib in his camp, just a great camp. great training partners around Islam. That's why he's the 145 champion right now. Or excuse me, 155 champion. Like, you know, it makes sense. So, you know, Islam, I would love to see Islam go up in weight to 170. I would love that. I don't think Islam's going to go to 185. I think that's crazy talk, you know, to go up to 185. We're talking Duplessis and Chimaev right now. So that's going to be a mega fight. What's next for Sean Strickland, though? That's a huge question. I mean, Sean Strickland, he could rematch Izzy. He could do that. We saw Izzy lost last weekend in a heartbreaking loss. Just got caught. That's all it takes. It's so funny. We see people online, especially on Twitter, talk crap about, you know, all these fighters, right? But they never had the courage to step in the octagon before and never got punched in the face in their lives. And yet they're still, like, bad-mouthing these fighters. It's just so funny to me, bro. We live in this era where they're going to talk a lot of crap to you online, but come face-to-face, they're not going to say anything, bro. That's just how it goes, man. It's just so funny to me. Like, you know, we're talking Izzy. He's a legend of UFC, dude. He'll go down in the UFC Hall of Fame eventually. People are making fun of this guy, saying, like, yes, I get it. He probably is washed up now at this point from when he first got in the UFC, because you got to remember, when Izzy first got in, everybody was talking about how he could beat John Jones. And I was scratching my head saying, this guy, Izzy, can beat John Jones? There's no way, bro. John Jones just on another level, and we've seen that. John Jones never lost. We're talking about the GOAT here, though. That's the difference, but that's why I'm saying with me, the social media back in 2020, 2021 was comparing Izzy to John Jones. Like, that is insane to me, bro. We never see John Jones go out like that, ever, in the cage, ever. Nobody's knocked out him. Like, let's be honest here. John Jones was not going out like that. Okay, so, but shout out to Izzy, man. He deserves way more respect than what's due. But I think Izzy and Sean should fight. I think that makes sense. Run it back. I think that would sell tickets. That would do great business for Dana White and UFC. That makes sense. But Duplessis, we already know. He's next up for Chimaev. Chimaev is right there. We already know that. And that's going to be an interesting fight, man. I can't wait. If Chimaev comes out and handles his business, I am leaning more towards Chimaev right now over Duplessis. However, if this fight goes in the later rounds, the championship rounds, round 4 and 5, how is Chimaev going to look against Duplessis when Duplessis is pushing forward? And Chimaev battling this, you know, I don't know what it is, some type of sickness he had in the past. You know, you got to have to go through that. So Chimaev, he's going to have to, you know, learn cardio or something, because you're just not going to ragdoll Duplessis, the 185 champion right now, with ease in the first round. I don't think that's going to happen. You never know, but I can't wait for that matchup, man. Chimaev Duplessis sometime in the summer or fall. I cannot wait. And then we had another championship fight, Tiana versus Zhang Weili. I want to apologize to Zhang Weili. I took the bait. I went against her, which is crazy, because I've seen so many Zhang Weili fights where she's just dominant. She's just ahead of her opponent. We saw that against Tatiana. She was light years ahead of her. 232 total strikes to Tatiana's 63 total strikes. She had one takedown. Zhang Weili had one takedown and controlled her for over 10 minutes, almost 11 minutes of control time for Zhang Weili. She was very well prepared. And then we had Tatiana. She had one takedown out of 15 attempts, and she had about 6 minutes of control time. So there's a huge difference. You know, the strikes were way heavier on Zhang Weili. I took the bait. Vegas fooled a lot of people, making Zhang Weili the underdog, the champion, which is crazy to me. I've never bet against the champion. I never will. And I've seen Zhang Weili fight, and she's just fast. She's just faster than her opponents. She's at one step ahead of her opponents in the past 4 or 5 years when I've seen Zhang Weili fight. That's how it is. And now I've seen her fight against Rose, and she lost that fight. She got picked up. She just got ground controlled. And that's what I thought was going to happen in this fight. That's why I went Tatiana, because I thought she was going to take Zhang Weili down. She was the bigger woman, a little bit more stronger. But no, Zhang Weili was just well prepared, has a great team around her, very disciplined. She knows all different types of fighting. She's fast, quick, explosive, and strong. And when you add that combination of hard work and talent, Zhang Weili's been the champion. I think she'll be the champion for the next couple of years at least, if she just keeps her head on straight, which I do think. So shout out to Zhang Weili, man. Just a dominant performance. Quick, fast, strong, hard work, talent, all that combined with the great team around Zhang Weili. She could be champion for a long time now. And she's the best woman fighter right now on the planet. Shout out to Zhang Weili, pound for pound. I should have never went against her. I was dumb. I never will. Zhang Weili, I love you. You're a fighter. You're a beast. I love you, Zhang Weili. But, hey, what a UFC card it was. Even though I do think it was kind of a weaker card overall from the cards that we're used to seeing, you know, last year at UFC 300, you know, Gaethje, but Max Holloway. It's just so many great fighters, right? But UFC 313 is going to be iconic. We got Alex Pereira headlining it yet again, like he did at UFC 300. I can't wait. He's fighting Uncle Life. I can't wait for that matchup. That's going to be a heck of a fight. And then we got Justin Gaethje fighting Dan Hooker, and that's going to be an interesting matchup. Got two guys that are going to bang it out. I don't think they're going to, take downs or none of that. I think Dan Hooker and Justin Gaethje, it's going to be a war. And I think Justin Gaethje, like he's done so many times in his UFC career, has won fight of the night. And I think that's one of the times where Justin Gaethje is going to win fight of the night yet again, in 100%. Even though Alex Pereira, yes, he could still knock Ankalaev out. I get that. Even though Ankalaev, it is an interesting matchup with him and Alex Pereira. We're talking about a guy who's a wrestling background, who likes to take people down. And Alex Pereira likes to stand up. So it's going to be an interesting matchup to see how that develops. Obviously, Alex Pereira is a slight favorite, but it's really even matchup. When we look at it from a stylistic standpoint, if Ankalaev can get takedowns on Alex Pereira and control the fight, he's going to be the light heavyweight champion. But, it's easier said than done, I'm telling you. And I looked at that Zhang Wei Li matchup, and I was just fooled on it 100%. And that's where I think that fight's going to head to. And I think Alex Pereira, just his evolution in the UFC a couple years ago. We're talking about a guy that was, not a big star, then boom, got fight of the year last year, just took off. So we're talking Alex Pereira, beast here. But shout out to Duplessis, man, beating Sean Strickland. I told you to put the house on it, put everything on it. Duplessis versus Chimaev by the end of the year. I cannot wait. It's UFC. It's the Clown with Cab show. Let's go!